Hi there, this is Catherine with Enfolded Heart Music. Welcome to the introductory video to the Lyre course, Lyre Foundations. If you haven't seen the video that I posted about a week ago, I just finished and now have shared and made available to you a book that is intended for those who want to learn how to play the lyre and to increase their skill and capacity with the instrument. Again, that book is also called Lyre Foundations. And these videos are meant to accompany that book. So if you haven't watched that video and you're interested in this type of material, then take a look at that, and you can learn a little bit more about the content of what you'll see here and what's in that book in that very first video. Today, what I'd like to do is to go ahead and start walking through the book. I'm going to assume that you have it with you, or that you're looking into having the book. So I'm not going to be doing a bunch of pictures or certainly reading through everything, but I am going to be following it through and making references to different pages that I'm hoping that you have in front of you in one way or another, whether that's digital or print copy. There's all sorts of different options for you. Again, I want to just thank you for sort of joining me on this. I really hope this is helpful for you. My intention is to be thorough but not repetitive in these particular videos. And as always, if you have any questions about anything, you're welcome to send me an email or to put a comment in below this video. So we're going to go through 3 different things today. The first is just an overview of the book, of the course, I should say, and that's the sort of the first page of the general introduction. That's the first part. The second part will be going through sort of my teaching approach, my teaching philosophy, if you would, and talking through just different ways of approaching this book, especially because this is mostly self-learned. I'm obviously trying to help you with that, but it really is up to you to pursue the course and to walk through it. So a couple of thoughts on that, and then finally answering a couple of common questions, which will be quite brief because I've already done most of those in the first video. So let us begin, and we will take a look at the overview of the course. Okay, so the first overarching and rather obvious question is, what is this course about, and what is it going to offer you? What is my hope as the one who organized and sort of created everything, for lack of better words? Why did I do that? What am I hoping to offer? So I've got a little paragraph at the top here. I would really encourage you to read that. I'm not going to read it here, but in short, of course, there's much more to music than simply the technical skills. There's the heart of things and the beauty that goes into music. And so I by no means want to say that this course booklet or this course in general, the information offered here, is what makes music. That's not true. I don't believe that's true. However, it is true that the technical aspects of things, both the physical and the cognitive capacity to understand what it is that you're doing and to be able to do this skill and to then participate in the art itself, that is important and that is essential. And so my hope in this book is to give you the knowledge and the skills to be able to participate in lyre music and the playing of lyre in a more broad and thorough way. And so it's to give you those technical skills to train both your eyes, your hands, and your ears, and your mind in many, many ways, to be able to have the skill to be able to really utilize and have true mastery of the instrument, and therefore to have freedom in actually playing it. So that's my hope. It's not all of music, but it is an essential part of it, and it really is the foundational block of things, a block of knowledge, to be able to continue actually working with the instrument and experiencing music and participating in that reality. Okay. I've already gone over this in my previous video, but very quickly, in case you haven't seen that, there are 3 parts to the book. You can look at the table of contents, and I would encourage you to do that first. The first is the lyre-specific content. So this has to do with everything from how to tune your lyre, how to hold it. Some of it is very strict in the sense of there's only one way to tune it. Other things are suggestions of ways to hold it, because lyres are very different. So and yours is going to be different. Also, just your body is going to be different than mine. And so that's going to require some different things for you. So that's the kind of first chapter. Following that are more technical skills such as how to actually pluck the strings, and then how to enhance your skills with two-handed playing, and also to work on placing your hands on the strings to get comfortable with that, and to strengthen your hands and get that coordination. Because our fingers, for most of us, unless you're coming from a different instrument like a piano or a harp, most of us are not used to doing this with our fingers. So that's all part one. It's very specific to the lyre. And is trying to give you a foundation in those aspects and those qualities. Okay, part two has a lot to do with the cognitive aspect of things, whereas part one has cognitive aspects, but it also has a lot of the physical. Part two has to do with music theory and its application. A little caveat here, in part one, I have not included in any of the book, just for simplicity's sake, length's sake, and also to encourage practicing actually reading sheet music. I have not included any of the names of the notes under the music like I do in my other books, not educational books, but sheet music books. And so if you are looking at part one, but you don't know how to read sheet music, you're going to need to start with part two, the first chapter of part two, which is chapter 4, in order to learn how to read sheet music. Then you can go back to the middle of part 1 to be able to actually utilize those exercises. I was a little bit torn about whether to do that or not, but I decided to be sort of insistent on being able to read sheet music and figure that out, because it just makes such a big difference. Okay, so part 2, again, is learning music theory and also its application. So applying this to actually writing, whether that's composition or improvisation, how to utilize the music theory that you'll learn in order to be able to play on the lyre more freely. And then also transposing and arranging music for the lyre. There's a lot of music that is out there, period, but certainly for things like piano and harp, which are probably the easiest to then translate to the lyre, but the range is very, very different. And so you need to know how to do that. If that is something that you're wanting to do, you need to know some music theory in order to be able to do that. So that's part 2. And then part 3 really just brings everything together, and I've written 5 compositions that are definitely on the easier level. I wouldn't say that they are the most beginner songs in the world. I wanted them to be beautiful but simple. They're much shorter than the songs that I typically write, and they are assuming that you have at least spent some time with parts 1 and parts 2. So it's not something that you should be able to pick up immediately, but also not something that you need to wait to the very end to be able to do. So you can have some flexibility between these parts. The book is written for you to go from part 1 to part 2 to part 3, but feel free to look around and see if that really is the best order for you. I think there's a number of ways it could be done. Okay, so those are the 3 main parts. Again, if you want to know more specifically, take a look at the table of contents, and certainly if you have the book, then just take some time going through it and getting an idea of the trajectory with which we will be going. Okay, I'm going to close this section for a moment, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit about the teaching approach and my recommendation for you in regards to teaching yourself. Okay, now we come to pages 2 and 3. Again, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I would take a look at those pages together. I think you may have to flip a page in the book. I don't quite have that with me quite yet. It's coming very soon. But page 3 has I can just show you here. It's got a nice little diagram here that I made. And it really kind of summarizes how I think of learning music and engaging with this beautiful reality. I speak to students when I teach piano about this at varying lengths depending their age, and it's really how I went about organizing this book and thinking about what content needed to go in here. Excuse me. So the first thing that we have really is knowledge, the second is hand and finger skills, and the third is listening, or just using our ears for lack of better words. And then the fourth, which brings everything together, is the heart. Again, I would really encourage you to read this, especially because you're the one who's going to be your main teacher. I'm here to help as much as I can through this medium, but it's very imperfect. And even if we were in person, there still needs to be a certain level of a motivation that comes from the musician themselves, of course, because you're the one who's actually playing the instrument. So let's start with the first three. I'm going to go through this rather briefly, but these are different aspects of music. So the first is just that we have to know things. And this seems obvious, but it also is something that a lot of people want to kind of skip over. As you may have seen or heard in other videos, my background is in piano. And so a lot of knowledge about music, how to read sheet music, even how to think about music has come from that. So I didn't really need to cultivate that as much with the lyre, but that is also to say that I did need to learn the differences between those instruments and to reverence and to receive the lyre as it actually is and not as it's not in its approximation to another instrument. And so this part is something that sometimes people will really struggle with. Some people really enjoy it. But things like music theory, learning how to read sheet music, even learning about the instrument itself is something that sometimes people aren't quite as excited to do. But it really is very important and is, again, in my opinion, a way of receiving and reverencing the instrument and therefore knowing how to respond to it. And that's really important to be able to actually create beauty with it and cooperate with the instrument as it was designed to be played. As I say at the end of number 1, this takes time, practice, patience, and a perspective that keeps the value of this knowledge present during the learning process. So that I would sort of just reemphasize. Okay, so that's the first part, is just knowing different things. What that is specifically is what we'll go through in the course, of course. Okay. Number 2, hand and finger skills. So once we know things, and these work together, which is why there's arrows that we see going to and from these. So we have knowledge, and then we have hand and finger skills. This is simply learning how to utilize this part of your body in a way that it has not probably done before. Again, even if you play something like the harp or the piano, there are differences, and so it's important to not correlate those too strongly, even though you will have greater skills built into your fingers because you're used to, for example, playing 2 different things with your hands, or you have certain strength in your fingers that somebody who hasn't played an instrument, especially one of those, is not going to have coming into it. So it's sort of a both and. You will have things that carry over, but don't take that too far. Okay. And again, that just takes time and practice. And as you know things, you, for example, know how to read sheet music, or you know how to hold the lyre, then you can actually practice how to do that. If you don't know how to hold the lyre properly, you're not going to be able to cultivate those physical skills as much or as readily, or you'll be very uncomfortable and it will just be more difficult than it needs to be for you. Okay, and they inform each other, okay? We are, of course, incarnate beings. We have bodies, and so we can't leave that out. If, for example, if you only play the lyre once a month, you're not going to develop the skills to be able to play it as well as maybe you would want to be able to play it. And that's okay. Just know that that's where you're going to be, because your body needs practice doing that. So you have to give it that time to do so. Okay. And there's a kind of connection, I would say, between, your mind and your hands. There's going to be times where you're going to want your hands to do something that they just quite can't do. And so they need practice. It's like we need practice talking to our hands. Okay, do this. This is how I want you to do it. And we need to slow down and give our hands the space and the time to cultivate that capacity. So again, they inform one another. Okay, number 3 is listening. As I say here, it might sound a little bit silly, but it is really quite common to be so focused on thinking about something and or playing something. I just did piano. I'm sorry, playing something. That we forget to listen to what we're doing. And my piano teacher growing up used to say very wisely, she said, if you are not listening to what you're playing, your audience is not listening. And I don't know if she really meant that super strictly, but I think the underlying principle is very true, that we need to be listening to what we're playing. Otherwise, we become kind of a robot. There's something very, very beautiful about human beings playing music. Just had a thought about AI and all that conversation right now. But it is true. We are the only ones who can actually hear what it is that we're playing and respond to that. And so again, that's why those arrows in the triangle go both ways. All these inform each other. If I hear something, maybe I'm playing too loud. Okay, I adjust my hands. But I also know how to adjust my hands. So they all have to do with one another. Okay. And we'll revisit this as we go. But just so you kind of have an idea of the different aspects, it's not just about knowing something, it's not just about having the physical capacity to do it, and it's not just about being able to hear it, but they all have to cooperate and go together with one another, informing one another and helping each other out, supporting one another. Okay, and then in the middle is the heart. And this, if you read nothing else on page 2, I would read number 4 because it really is the most important. The heart is not just emotion. I actually don't mean emotion really at all when I say that, but I'm talking more about what I have listed in the diagram. Love of beauty, disposition of gratitude and humility, and your source of motivation and purpose. If you're doing this only because you want to be really good, that's not going to hold you for very long. It's not an other-oriented perspective, motivation, and it's also just true that you're not going to be very good at the beginning, and you may not even be very good at the end. There's always going to be somebody who is going to be better at one aspect or another than you, and that's a beautiful thing, that we all have different things to offer and can offer those together as a whole to the world and for the sake of beauty. Okay, and so that disposition, again, of gratitude and humility, I've talked about this in one of my earliest videos. I think that's really, really important because there are going to be things that you don't enjoy as much. Maybe some of the exercises or maybe some of the learning that needs to happen. But there needs to be a greater source of motivation to really hold you through that and allow you to be able to receive the information and to do the exercises, to do the kind of work that needs to be done, even if we don't enjoy it as much as other aspects, that our love for the beauty of the lyre or our love for another and desiring to give beauty in that way, to give a gift to another, those sorts of deeper, more essential motivations will really hold us through and give us our aim that's higher than simply, I just want to be good, or I just want to do this thing because I sort of kind of like it. So I would encourage you before you begin to really take a moment to take that seriously. And this is true, I think, with just about anything really, that when it is, received with gratitude and given as a gift for another in whatever kind of way, that adds a very different character to it. And it also makes the music more beautiful, even if it's very simple music. I think we've all probably had an experience of very simple music being played. Maybe it was by a grandparent or by a teacher or something like that, or even our own. And we were really, really very deeply moved by it because there was a real gift of the heart in that way. Okay, so again, take a look at pages 2 and 3 and take a moment to reflect as you feel is fitting for you. And just know that this is definitely in the back of my mind as I'm making these videos and as I wrote the book. So it gives you a good perspective and hopefully is a helpful tool for you to kind of organize your own approach and to maybe deepen some of that heart piece as well. Okay, I'll come back in just a moment for the last part of this video. Okay, finally we have page 4, which is the common questions. This I'm really going to not spend very much time on at all because I've already really gone through this in the previous video. The 4 questions I have are: what content does this course offer and for whom is it suited? For what kind of lyre is this course intended? What kind of music will I learn to play? And are the complementary video lessons necessary to understand the book? Okay, the first one, what kind of content? In short, it is for beginners, but it is going to take you into an intermediate level if you do everything as it's written thoroughly and really have a kind of mastery over the content here. That's at least from my perspective. I would call that an intermediate level. And so that said is that I wouldn't expect you to sort of go all the way through it very quickly if you're just beginning, and don't expect that. Otherwise you're going to be kind of frustrated and go, oh gosh, this is like way more than I'm able to do right now. That's part of the point, is not that it's way more than that you can do, but that it's something you can grow with and can grow with you. As actually that didn't make sense. That you can grow with, it will stay the same, but that you can grow with and it will accompany you as you grow. So you're not having to buy 50 different books. And also, this is everything that I personally can offer you, at least at this time in my musical and personal journey. And so I wanted to just have it all in one book, and that's the intention for it. So my hope is that you can go back to it as you grow, and that it will be fitting for you in maybe different ways as you progress in your lyre playing. Okay. Number 2, what kind of lyre? Ideally, a 16 or a 19 string diatonic lyre. If you have something like a Saxon lyre or a chromatic lyre, most of this is not really going to be applicable for you, at least in part 1 and part 3. Part 2, some of that will be applicable, some of it will not be. The first part, because it's music theory, certainly will be, but its application is quite specific to the diatonic lyre. Yeah, so I wouldn't really recommend it, but again, maybe you're watching these videos and you really think some of it would be helpful, go for it. But just be aware that it was not written for that instrument. If you have something less than 16 strings, it's going to be much more applicable to you than, for example, if you had a Saxon lyre. The downside will be that some of the exercises you won't be able to do, especially things like the two-handed exercises, and then the songs at the end I wrote for a 16-string lyre. And so it kind of depends on what you're wanting to work on and what you're wanting to learn. Also things like holding the lyre. I've never played a 10-string lyre, so I don't know if some of my tips will be as fitting for that size of a lyre. So it will take more ingenuity on your part. But just so you know, it's written for somebody with a 16 or 19 string diatonic lyre. If you've got any questions or confusions about that, feel free to let me know. I'm happy to help you as I can. Okay, what kind of music? In short, it's the kind of music that I know how to write and play. So if you're not sure, if this is the first video you're watching, take a look at some of my compositions. If that's the way you want to learn how to play, that's what I'll be teaching. If you want to learn something like the strumming method, or even a very particular and specific form of the harp plucking method, that is not something that I personally use, so it's not something I'm teaching. I'm just not the best person to do that. If you see somebody else's videos and music that you really like, reach out to them and ask how to learn how to play in that style of music. Again, one person doesn't do everything, and so we're all sort of complement each other, and I would encourage you to reach out to that person. But if you enjoy the music here, if you want to learn to play in this style, then this is what that's for. Okay, and then are these videos, it's sort of a funny question to answer on a video, are these videos necessary for the book? No, I wouldn't say that they're absolutely necessary. The book was written to stand on its own. However, I know people learn in very different ways. And so while the videos are not really meant to stand on their own, I would say, I'm assuming that you have the book. So I would say that if you're going to get only one or the other, get the book, and if the videos are helpful, great. But since the videos are free, there's kind of no reason to not watch them. Again, if they're helpful for you. They may not be. Okay, and then I have the link there, but if you're already watching this, you know that link. Okay. I think that's the most introduction that the book as a whole needs. My next video, we will go ahead and jump into part 1 and chapter 1. I've got introductions for each of those chapters, so I'll have a moment to speak about that. And then we'll get into the lyre, into the content, and start going through it step by step. I hope that even this little introductory video is helpful for you, helps orient you. And again, if you have any questions or you're not quite sure if this is a good fit for you or not, feel free to ask me. I'm happy to help as I'm able to, and to give you the best answers I can. Okay, thank you so much for joining, and I hope that you continue to come back. I hope to have the others done as quickly as possible, and I hope you're enjoying your lyre, or will enjoy it if you're thinking about getting one. Thank you again. May God bless you, and the peace of Christ be with you.